Let's just get straight to into it, bro. No hesitation. No hesitation. No balls. No balls. All right, let me stop. Okay, so I've been wanting to talk about, I feel like, a series of things on this channel in terms of just like superhero stuff, whatever you want to call it. And I wanted to just like put all of them into one video essentially. And so in this video I'm going to be talking about three things that I just wanted to cover in this video. The three things that I wanted to cover in this video is, one, my thoughts and opinions on Daredevil Born Again season 2 so far. Second thing is going to be talking about the new SuperGirl trailer that, you know, just came out. And third thing is Invincible season 4 and my thoughts and opinions on that show so far. So yeah, we have a lot to cover, talk about, and without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to talk about was the SuperGirl trailer, and I was going to just make like an actual separate, just individual video for it, but then I just thought to myself, let me just like throw this in, you know, with just like the other stuff that I want to talk about. But talking about this first, no, but that new SuperGirl trailer that came out, I enjoyed, and I do think that this trailer that they had for SuperGirl, I thought was better than the last trailer that they had. And I thought the last trailer that they had was, I liked it, but like it wasn't enough yet for me to actually, I don't know, I guess sell me on the movie. And obviously, you know, I was gonna go see it because, you know, it's SuperGirl, it's the next, basically the next movie in the DCU, so I was gonna go see it, obviously. But like as a first initial trailer, I don't know, I guess comparing it to like, you know, when the first Superman trailer came out and how that just felt more like, I don't know, an event. And obviously that character is, you know, just way different from the, you know, than Supergirl or Supergirl as a character. And so obviously, I don't know, like that, you know, in itself was like, okay, that makes sense. Obviously it's not going to have the same tone vibe as, you know, a Superman trailer would have. And so I kind of just had to like get over that, honestly. But no, with this trailer, I do think they did a way better job on selling me, you know, in this movie. We got some new shots of Lobo in this trailer. Lobo looks absolutely sick. Jason Momoa as Lobo looks really good, and I'm super excited for that character. And I do think he's going to be that type of character that steals the show a lot. He's going to be definitely like the standout character in that show, in my opinion, or not show, but movie, in my opinion. We get to see Superman, or Superman shows up at the beginning of this trailer, and I guess he's like doing like a little video call for Kara. And we just get more of Kara's character. And Kara obviously is way more different than Superman. She is way more brash, I guess it seems. And also just way more, I don't know. She's obviously with Superman, you know, he has this whole, he's a Boy Scout. And he's always trying to do the right thing. And Kara just seems like she does not care like at all about any of that, you know, kind of stuff. The only thing that I think, you know, she cares about is, you know, crypto, and that's about it. Like, I don't think she really cares about anything else. And also she probably does care about Clark as well, but like Clark has, you know, just comparing the two characters, but Clark has always had that thing of like being on Earth and having, you know, the Kansas farmers raise him with, you know, Ma and Pa Kent, and obviously, you know, he has Lois and all these other people, you know, in his life that make him who he is. And Kara, obviously, she doesn't have that. And so we see in this trailer how alone she is and how lonely she is, and how Crypto, because they do in this trailer, they show Crypto, and I feel like this is definitely what sold me on the movie is it's basically, Crypto gets, I guess, not taken, but Crypto gets shot with like this thing by like the main villain, and he only has like 3 days to live essentially. And so it's basically Kara trying to save Crypto in this movie. And I feel like as like a plot point, as like, or as a like a main plot for the story, I feel like that is pretty, straightforward and pretty good. And so I am, obviously, you're going after, with Crypto as like as the character, you're going after the dog. And so yeah, you're gonna make a lot of people sad when you do that. And so yeah, I feel like that is going to be an effective thing just for the movie, and also making Kara more relatable, because she's sad and emotional for her dog, and that's a relatable thing that a lot of people could probably relate to. So that definitely is going to be a major thing for the movie. But I do think, yeah, this movie is definitely, or this trailer has definitely sold me on the movie. But I also just do feel like, I don't know, like, will this movie be different enough, or will it be able to, I don't know, do something? Because I don't know, from this trailer, and I do think it is a good trailer, I do think that so far, or my biggest concern so far is that, like, will this be another superhero movie that just does the same thing, or have the same formula of other like superhero movies? And that in this trailer kind of had that vibe, and everything. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. This movie does look good in my opinion, and hopefully the actual, when the actual movie comes out, it actually is good. But I don't know, I do have this fear, because you look at other DCU projects like Lanterns, or like, Clayface, and, looking at like Lanterns, that has just like a different, I feel like, tone and vibe from, I guess, everything that we've seen so far. I mean, specifically, I guess, Superman just in general. But like, that show just feels way more grounded and just looks way more serious in tone and everything like that. And then you get to Clayface, and Clayface is just a straight up body horror movie apparently, and so that is going to be, I feel like, wildly different from anything that we've seen so far from the DCU. And obviously, Superman was a very, out of all the things that we've seen or that we've gotten so far, is the most like comic booky, the most hopeful, the most, just comic booky thing that we've seen so far from the DCU. Also, we had, Creature Commandos too as well, and Peacemakers leaned, more into the comic booky side of things. But obviously that movie is more, or that show is more of a comedy than anything else. But looking at Supergirl, and Supergirl does have like that comic book feel. And I guess another thing that people were I guess concerned about or complaining is that like it doesn't look enough like the actual comic book, or the Superman Woman of Tomorrow comic book. It doesn't look enough like that comic book, because in that comic book, it was just how it looked. It was way more bright, or it was way more colorful, and way more, I don't know, it had a way more, and this just looks way more, I guess, Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know how to describe it. Like, it doesn't, it definitely, I don't know. And just because it is like in space, and there's music, like, and there's like old, music attached to it, like, doesn't necessarily mean that it's just straight up Guardians of the Galaxy. But like I said, I do feel like so far, I haven't necessarily seen anything that I feel like I haven't seen in a superhero movie or like whatever so far. And like I said, that's not a bad thing, but I do hope that this movie is able to stand out and is not, and it doesn't feel generic. I feel like that's my biggest concern so far, but we'll just have to see when the movie comes out. But so far, everything that I've seen looks good. Like I said, Lobo, the stuff with Crypto, it definitely feels like it's gonna, hit you in the feels and the emotional side and everything. Kara as a character seems very interesting. And so yeah, and I almost forgot to talk about the other character that they have in this movie. I guess she's gonna be like more of like a side character, but like she also has a reason for being in this movie, because the main villain in this movie killed her parents, and so that's going to be a big thing. And so I feel like at the beginning of this movie is going to be the thing of like Kara and this other girl, or I guess Kara being reluctant to help, this this other girl. And obviously at first I guess they're gonna butt heads a little bit, but as they, as the movie goes along, Kara is gonna get more, emotionally tied to this girl, and vice versa, or like whatever. And so that's probably what's gonna happen. So, but yeah, that's probably what's gonna happen. And so yeah, I'm definitely all for it. But I'm very, very interested and excited to see this movie when it comes out. And so yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next thing I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about Daredevil Born Again. And so far there have only been 3 episodes out for Daredevil Born Again Season 2. And I don't know, I just wanted to talk about my thoughts and opinions on the show so far. My thoughts and opinions so far is that I'm liking the show. And I think it's good. And I think that there are still, I feel like, elements of the show that I'm still not like, I don't know, I still feel like, I don't know, because I always, and maybe this is like my problem, like I'm still trying to compare this to the Netflix show, and I feel like I've gotten to the point where like I need to stop always comparing it to the Netflix show, because I feel like I've just come to the realization that it's never going to be, I guess, I don't know, maybe storytelling wise, writing wise. I just feel like that show, or the Netflix version of the show, had way more, I guess, like leeway with like what types of stories and what type of like just like the character writing in that show they were able to do in that show. And I feel like also, I don't know, I feel like that the Netflix show had the benefit of not having to tie it to like the grander MCU. Like it really did feel like it was in its own little pocket, or it was in its own little self-contained area in the Marvel universe or like whatever. And I feel like it definitely benefited from that. I feel like you were able to just focus on characters like, Matt, Karen, Foggy, Wilson Fisk, characters like Bullseye, and even just like, supporting characters and stuff like that. But like, I don't know, like because I enjoyed Daredevil Born Again Season 1. But I do feel like in terms of like the side characters, and also just like that season had, problems with like, new directors coming in later in the project and having to redo things, and it leading to a very disgruntled, or I guess a very disjointed season of television in terms of like tone and everything. But going into season 2, I was definitely way more optimistic, just in the fact that like, the actual people who came in for season 1 were going to be the people for season 2 from beginning to end. And it just also looked like, they were doing more things to like really satisfy, the Netflix Daredevil fans, and just like the fans of like, even like the character or the other characters from the Netflix series, like Jessica Jones. They're bringing back Jessica Jones. They're even bringing back characters that I feel like should have been, or at least one character that I feel like you literally could have replaced his character with, a particular character in the show. And I I feel like going into this season, I had more faith. I was way more optimistic. And so far, I'm liking the show. I'm liking what they're doing with Matt as a character. I feel like Matt at this point in his Daredevil career has just gone. I don't know. I feel like at this point, because I feel like Daredevil or Matt's character is, I don't know. I feel like he's definitely in a worse spot than he was back in like season 3, and that was like the season where it's like he was questioning his faith, like his faith in God and his faith in the justice system and everything, and he was just in a very dark place. And in this season, like, he's, in my opinion, he's in a way worse spot. Literally, the person who he's put away multiple times is literally the mayor of New York. Is literally the mayor of New York City. This man is on the run and having to like hide, and is freaking people are hate, or not hate, well, yeah, I mean, they see Wilson Fisk as like this really good guy, even though we've literally in season 3, it was revealed that he's done all these terrible things and terrible things and everything, but like it just seems like people, I guess, forget about that or like whatever. But it just seems like Matt should be just like in a worse headspace, but like I feel like at this point he's just like, yeah, this is the stuff I deal with. Wilson Fisk is out again and he's causing trouble for me. This is just how it is. I'm probably gonna get him eventually. But like, yeah, I just think that's funny. But the fight scenes have been, I think, good so far as well. I feel like they still haven't like reached the levels of the fight scenes or anywhere near the freaking hallway fight scenes that we've gotten in the past, in the Netflix shows and everything. But I do think the action has improved. Also, I really like his costume this time around. Obviously, in this time they have like the double D's and it's all black, so I think his costume looks really cool. I do think they are trying to make the side characters from Daredevil Born Again way more interesting. I guess an example of that is like the therapist. The therapist from last season I didn't really care for, because she was literally just Matt's like love interest, and she was just a way less interesting version of Karen in my opinion. But I feel like they are trying to do more interesting things with her character this season, or this go around. But I don't know, I think maybe my main problem that I have right now is that it feels like, I don't know, it feels like they haven't been doing anything necessarily new with Daredevil as a character that I haven't seen before, I guess. Mainly with like Wilson Fisk being out again and causing trouble for Matt, and I'm not saying that it can't be interesting again. I feel like with these types of characters, with Wilson Fisk and Daredevil, I mean, Wilson Fisk is like the main, when we talk about who's the main threat or who's going to be the main villain for a new season of Daredevil. It makes sense that it would be Wilson Fisk, but I feel like at this point, what can they do? What can they do that they haven't already done in the previous seasons to make it be like even more, I guess, interesting? I guess the conflict between Wilson Fisk and Daredevil, and maybe that's my problem so far, is that they haven't really done anything that I feel like I haven't seen yet. I mean, Wilson Fisk, is causing trouble. He's being a bad guy. He's causing trouble in like the city and everything, and he's turning people against Daredevil, or he's trying to turn people against Matt Murdock or like whatever. But we've like seen that. We've seen that in like season 3 and like everything. But like I said, man, so far I'm liking this season. I do want to stop comparing it to the to the Netflix show, because the Netflix show is just, I don't know, I feel like it was definitely a different time, a different period of time for this particular character, and we're just not in that time anymore, and that's okay. And I think what we have now is good. And, you know, obviously you can have the opinion that what we had before, or with like the Netflix show, was better. And I do think there are still core aspects of the Netflix show that I still enjoy way more than what we have right now. But so far I'm liking what what they've been doing, and we're only 3 episodes in, so this has the potential. This has the potential to get even better, and so that's definitely what I'm hoping for. Okay, so moving on to the last thing that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about my thoughts and opinions on. We've gotten 5 episodes in Invincible so far, and I just watched the latest episode that they put out, episode 5, and bro, I'll just say this. I don't think I've ever seen something. I just don't think I've ever seen what I've seen in a television or a television show, let alone an animated television show. And I'm not gonna like spoil it if you haven't seen the newest episode of Invincible. Let me just say that it is, I don't know, it's it had me, it was very disturbing.
What?
Very disturbing, very crazy. But I feel like this show, when we talk about, specifically when we talk about the shows that they have on Amazon Prime, obviously, they also have The Boys, and that's a superhero show, and that show leans way more into like the grotesque and the violent and the way more brutal side of just superheroes just in general. And Invincible is definitely the same way. There are scenes and there are moments that happen in this show that just have you like why am I watching what am I watching right now? And it's very uncomfortable, and it definitely works on that level. I think the stuff with Mark this season, I think, has definitely been interesting to me. This push and pull, or there's definitely this conflict that he's been having of like, should he or should he not kill the villains that he goes up against. I feel like this is definitely the previous seasons that we've had has definitely led him up to this point, or has led him up to this point of like, of having to, or feeling like he has to kill, these villains in order to like, I guess make sure that the people around him are safe. And I definitely understand that, especially after last season with Conquest and how traumatizing that whole thing was probably for him. I definitely, if I was Mark, I would be in the mindset of like, even if it was like the littlest of like of a threat or like anything, you would in the moment be like, should I like just end this person here so he doesn't harm anyone else? And I feel like that is the conflict that Mark is having. And because I actually was gonna make a video talking about this, but then I thought to myself, okay, well, there's only a handful of episodes out right now, so let me not jump the gun and I guess like paint this character or paint this character in a certain way just yet, I guess. But I was going to make a video just talking about how, like, in my opinion, Invincible doesn't feel like a superhero, or he doesn't feel like a hero to me necessarily. But I don't know, after like just thinking about it and also just watching the next couple of episodes and people just talking about the show just in general, I feel like I have come to like realize that like this is a very it's a way more realistic take on like I guess, superheroes, but also just like it's just a way more realistic take on like what like an actual like superhero would have to go through, just like like morally, as a person, like, you know, going through like these life threatening, these, you know, insane, terrible situations that would probably change you, and maybe even change you for the worse. And it's been definitely interesting to see Mark grow as a character. He's definitely become way more stronger, way more not only just physically, but I guess just like mentally tough, as well, as a character as well. But he's gone through so much, like, I feel like trauma and just like terrible events that's just like led him to like be the way that he is now, like to see the way more, or see the world way more in a like a gray area than in a black and white situation, to where like, yes, there are some villains that he's come up against that like he has to take out, he has to kill. And I've always been in the mindset of like, when it comes to superheroes, when it comes to like these, you know, heroic superhero characters, I've always had the mindset, because, you know, my favorite superheroes are Daredevil, Batman, and with those characters, they have a code, they have a morality of like, I'm not gonna kill the villains, basically. And I've always like, I don't know, I've always respected that, and I've always thought that's like cool, like being a superhero and trying to rise above, you know, whatever situation that they're in, or trying to be better than the bad guys, trying to be morally better than whoever that they're going up against in any situation. But like, you're seeing specifically with this show, you're seeing that like, that's, in reality, that's probably not possible. Like, Invincible is probably more likely to be, like, a character like Invincible is more likely to be the way that he is in real life as a superhero than a character like Batman, or a character like Daredevil, or I guess like any character who wants to uphold this sense of like, oh, I'm not gonna kill anyone, or I have like this no kill rule. Because there's a lot of things that happen in this show that like really tests Mark as like, or it tests just like his or Mark's morality as a character. Literally in the first episode, I don't want to go deep into spoilers, but like, there's literally a thing that happens in the first episode to where, you know, Mark, you know, he doesn't want to kill this certain individual, but like what other choice does he have? And like, that's I feel like that is the big thing with this show, just like the idea of like having to make these tough calls as a superhero, and like, what does that actually like look like? You're like, what does it actually look like when like you have these just like, I mean, especially with like, you know, the Viltrumites, and how like just how like insane and like terrible they are, and how just like cruel they are. It just would make like a character like Invincible more prone to want to kill the villains, or want to like permanently take out the villains, because of like threats like that. Like, what do you like, there's no reasoning with like a Viltrumite. I mean, there's definitely no reasoning with a character like Conquest. I mean, there are just certain types of villains that you're gonna have to take out, unfortunately, and that I feel like you are seeing that side of that type of, you know, that side of superheroes just in general. And I feel like that is definitely really interesting. But like I said, I'm enjoying the show so far. I can only imagine, especially with a character like Conquest and how brutal this latest episode was for Mark. I can only imagine how Thrag is gonna be, bro. If Conquest, just seeing how just freaking wild Conquest is as a character, I can only imagine what Thrag is going to entail for Mark and company. I don't know. We'll just have to see. But like I said, I'm enjoying the show. I guess one other thing I wanted to touch upon is like the animation. I guess that's another flaw or criticism that the show is like, you know, has, is that like the animation sometimes is very not very good. It's not very good sometimes, and I can definitely, I don't know, when it comes to animation, I'm definitely not like an expert. I'm definitely not a person who knows the ins and outs of like what makes a actual good animation or whatever. But I have noticed that, like, you know, when watching an episode, you can definitely tell, you know, which episodes have more money behind it than other episodes. Let me just put, I guess, like, I'll just put it like that, I guess. But I don't think the animation is bad per se, but like you can definitely tell like when there's a certain scene or if there's like a certain particular episode dealing with a certain you know, certain particular characters, you can definitely see like you can definitely tell, oh, this is where the budget went. This is where like most of the budget went. It was for this one particular scene. But yeah, like I said, I'm not an animation expert, but yeah, I can definitely see how like some people, when it comes to animation, is not as like good as like other animated projects that are out there. But yeah, man, I'm enjoying Invincible so far. But yeah, man, those are all the things that I wanted to touch upon in this video. In the comments down below, what are your thoughts on, you know, the new SuperGirl trailer that, you know, came out? Do you think it's good? Also, what are your thoughts on Daredevil Born Again Season 2? Have you been enjoying that? Have you been watching that? If you have you been liking it? And also Invincible Season 4, if you've been watching that, you know, have you been enjoying it and everything? But yeah, man, leave all your thoughts and opinions down in the comment sections below. And yeah, man, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here, and I will see you guys in the next one. So yeah, bye.